So without any more of this guy, let's welcome Phil Nash to the stage.
Thank you. And I've got to spend 10 minutes defending myself for all the things Robin's now said about me. Cool, good afternoon. It's now afternoon, isn't it? Afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. I like it. It's fine, it's cool, it works with the feature. Do you remember on the internet, though, when we didn't actually have any more emotions than this? Wasn't it great when Facebook invented 6 more emotions for us? Thank you. Now I know I can feel annoyed about Facebook. At least annoyed about them for several reasons I'll come up to in a minute. So as Robin said, my name's Phil Nash. I'm a developer evangelist for Twilio. Twilio, if you've not heard of it, is a communications platform. That means we can do everything from sending SMS to fax to video chats to everything in between. If you want to find out more about that, I have a booth out there. I'll be there all day, and I have a limited selection of T-shirts and maybe socks. So come say hi. But I'm talking about this today, this little thing that appears on so many websites around the world. I bet you've implemented one before. A little like button, I bet you have, right? But what does it do? Well, apart from let people like stuff. I'm not going to say whether you should implement a like button or a tweet button or anything like that. That's entirely up to you, your own use case, your own websites. Don't take my advice for it, test for it. Don't take the UK government's advice for it, because when they write a blog post about how nobody shared things on the UK government site, it's because it's a government site. Don't take 37 Signals, don't take Basecamp's advice for it, because when they said they were removing the like buttons from it, they then moved to Medium and got all their like buttons back again. That aged poorly for a blog post, I have to say. So, do your own testing. If it's useful for you and your users, include share buttons. If it's not, don't. What I am going to talk about is the user experience of things like and share and tweet buttons. Because if you add, so I did a little bit of testing just with Facebook and Twitter, so you can kind of extrapolate this to anything else you might, include as third-party JavaScript for social networks on your page. If you just include a Facebook like button and a Twitter tweet button on your page, they'll make 12 extra requests, not just the 2 for the 2 script tags. They'll make 12. They'll do it to 5 new origins, which is interesting. There's not enough websites out there for them to make requests to. They have to make more. But it doesn't significantly increase any performance metrics. It's not going to slow the page down. This does all happen asynchronously. So that's quite cool, aside from all the extra requests. But it's the hidden things, I think, that are weird about them. It's a little bit strange because those 2 buttons alone will download almost a meg of data, compressed to a quarter of a meg, but that's a little bit harsh. I mean, it's not just, well, I have plenty of data on my phone, but I'm not everybody. The performance of the page running, of the buttons running on the page is kind of interesting, because this is what my website looks like if there's no share buttons on it. Green means the CPU is free. Purple means it's doing some stuff. That's on the main thread. Oh no, so green means the page is interactive. So there's one point when I load my page and it becomes slightly interactive for a second. The purple bits are the JavaScript working on the main thread. And this is what happens when you add the buttons to the page. They're 2 little buttons. They make the page go inactive for about a second in there. Why? And then later again, it happens again. They do more stuff. And this is where we get to the privacy implications of this, right? Because Facebook drops 10 cookies when you include a like button on the page. And you're thinking, 10, that's quite a few. No, Twitter has 20 cookies to store data about your users, not necessarily theirs. And both of them then start sending beacons. That shows kind of some of the action that happens after they've loaded on that thread. And speaking of that privacy, oh no, design, haha, yes. So this is what happened when I put them next to each other on my page. Look, I like writing CSS, but I only want to write as much of it as I need to, and I don't want to have to write more for these guys. And then yes, there are potential legal issues. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but in July of this year, the European Court of Justice ruled that websites, at least in Europe, and of course that only means if you have users in Europe, which this is the web, we might well do, if you include a like button, and this was specifically targeted to Facebook, if you include a like button on your page, then you are responsible as responsible as Facebook for collecting the data about the user and transferring it to Facebook. This means that if you include a like button on your page, you must gain for users within Europe, gain the consent of those users to collect and transfer that data. So you'll need to be updating your privacy policy and possibly including some kind of pop-up to say, can I do this? And if you don't, you may come under the wrath of the European Court of Justice. You might do, who knows? It's not something I like to risk anyway. So what do we do about this? How do we fix this? Well, first of all, Facebook and Twitter do have these URLs which you can send your users to, and you can put some query parameters into that and have people pop up like or share or tweet buttons. That's cool, and actually there's quite a nice little solution for this. There's a site out there called sharingbuttons.io. It's built in React, as it happens, by Max Stoiber of Star Components. And it allows you to generate those URLs for each of the services that are up there, because there's loads. And it makes nice buttons for you with SVG icons, which is cool. But how do you decide which of those buttons you need? And how do you decide how much you ruin your page by adding several more buttons from several other companies with several other logos on them? They just keep going. Yes, you could share to Zing or LinkedIn or WhatsApp or Hack and Use. There's so many. And this is where the WebShare API finally comes in and saves us. It is a new API, but it is. I'll talk about support in a minute. The WebShare API is a very simple API. It lives on the Navigator object and allows us to pop up the operating system default share dialog from our browser application. And you can fill in bits of the sites that are chosen from that dialog using the title, URL, and text. And it's promise-based, so you can tell if somebody successfully shared. It's also privacy-based, so you can't tell where they shared to or what they shared, ultimately. And you can also find out if it aborted or didn't happen. There's two things it needs. HTTPS, so it needs to be secure. It needs to be on a secure site, as most cool new web APIs do these days. And it requires a user input. So it means you can't bring somebody to the end of an article and then pop up the default share dialog. You can't do that on page load, as so many other annoying permissions-based frameworks do. I just want to show you it quickly in action, so you get to know what it's going to do. This is on my website, at the bottom of a post about the WebShare API. We'll see more about that later. And just this little share it button at the bottom pops up the default thing, so I can go to Twitter and I can go share my post over there if I want to. I won't do that right now. Yeah, no, cancel it. Delete. Cool. I wanted to show you. I got it in more than one place. If you are on Dev2, which is a great site for articles and other social networking for developers, you can also share the posts on there as well. Works exactly the same. Now I can go put it in my Slack. Let's not. Oh, I can put it in the ComponentsConf Slack. Oh, that's cool. Let's not do that though. Cool. So back to this. Support. Do you know, it's not that bad, I promise, because all those red areas are desktop browsers and all the green ones are mobile browsers. And so, well, it's not exactly true. This green one is mobile Safari, this green one is mobile Android, it's mobile Chrome, and this green one over here is actually desktop Safari, because they implemented Safari, so they did it everywhere. But if you combine Android and Chrome and desktop and iOS Safari, that's mobile browsing. Fantastic. According to Can I Use, that's 47% of all browsers out there. And that's really where you want it as well, because I don't know of a native share dialog on Windows. There might be one. I don't use Windows. The native share dialog on the Mac is actually not that great, because it only currently does Facebook and Twitter. So Safari on the desktop's implementation of that is not necessarily the best thing just yet. I'd like to see more of that. But yes, so you can use it conditionally. You can use it by feature detection for it. There's one other thing that we need to implement, or we need the browsers to implement, actually, to make this even better, and that's the Web Share Target API. I'm not going to spend long on this because I don't have long in general, but the Web Share Target allows your website to appear in that share dialog on iOS or Android. Not yet iOS, though. The web share target requires you to have a service worker and a web application manifest. So if you're building a progressive web application that's installable, that's what you need. And now you can go and add to that the web share target API. And all you need to do to add support for that is in your application manifest file. That's the JSON file that tells browsers about your site. You just talk about, tell it a share target, give it a URL, and then the params is just a map between that, the parameters from the share API in the first place and the ones that the share target exists. And then in your page, which I've called share target in this action here, all you need to do is listen for that, listen for the page to be loaded, and then drag those things out of the URL, because that's where they'll be given to you. And that's it. You now have a share target. You can build that Facebook widget, that Slack widget that we just saw on my phone in that demo as well. The support for that is worse. iOS have not implemented that, so you can only do this on Chrome right now. But if you have a progressive web application that you would like people to be able to share content to, you can register to be a web share target. And one more thing before I run out of time. Because I wanted to make this easy for people to use, especially as we're doing like conditional checking on whether the browser supports it or not. And since we're here at ComponentsConf, I made a web component for it, which is great because it's going to work in all of the frameworks and without frameworks. And so actually the demo we just saw there on my website and on Dev2 was both using the web share wrapper. And the web share wrapper is just a component that allows you to wrap around your existing share buttons. However you've implemented them, I recommend using the URLs so you don't have all the hassle of the JavaScript and all the other things we saw at the start of the talk. But if you wrap it around this, then on the desktop, on a browser that doesn't support the web share API, this will just show the share it button, a share it link with the Twitter intent URL. And if you open that up on a browser on mobile, then it will show a button that says share it from the text at the top there, and we'll directly call the web share API. It's super simple. I think just some little feelings on web components. I really would like to see more people publishing web components to do little things like this, which in this case, I feel this one's a bit weird because it actually does a progressive enhancement using a web component, which I think a lot of people, a lot of things don't work that way for web components. I quite like this for that. But share your little widgets, your little things via web components so we can use it in any framework, anywhere we want. I've been tempted on more than one occasion to try and write this same component up as a React component and an Angular component and a Vue component and try and share those over NPM as well. And I got to the point where I think, no, there's no need for that. This will do the job across all the platforms. It's also useful that all platforms that support the web share API already support web components. That helps too. So that's it. I have some links. I will share the slides around that tell you how to use this, how to use the web share target, and how to use the web share component, the web share wrapper component. And that's all I've got for you. So as again, my name is Phil Nash. I'm developer evangelist for Twilio. Come chat to me. My table's on this wall over here. It's behind that guy. And other than that, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you. And what, like 5 minutes for questions? Or if you haven't, has anybody got any questions?
Okay. Wow, very completionist.
All right. Does anybody want to get to lunch first?
No, we're just going to stay here. All right. Yeah. What are you doing this weekend? Oh. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Is anyone doing anything good on the weekend? Ooh, Singapore. All right, that's it. We've only got 2 weekends amongst all of us. Let's go to work.